P2P Online is no stranger to canceled superhero games, whether it's those that make it into full production, or those that don't make it past a simple document. I've covered a little bit of everything. The one that has been mostly unseen by the world, though, is Daredevil. But first, I must say again that this is the result of research done and materials gathered prior to my current employment in my own time. Jokes aside, I'm not here to give a full, comprehensive story. Quite frankly, Liam Robertson has done a better job than I likely could have, so I highly recommend checking out his video. But I will make reference to his video quite a bit, trying to confirm some of what he said, not that there was ever any doubt. Developer 5,000 Feet, based in Reno, Nevada, had been working on a few Army Men spin-off games. Through a series of events, the company jumped on the opportunity to develop a game based on Marvel's Daredevil comic. The title's development would be meddled in quite a bit, both by Sony and a little bit by Marvel, shifting the game's focus and feature set. Add in some illicit substances in Nevada, and it was a recipe for disaster, leading first to a delay from early 2003 to Q4 2003, and to eventually the game's cancellation. The game may have clung to life until 2004, but there was a huge period of quiet from both the developer and publisher Encore, so it isn't 100% clear when the game was cancelled officially. As of July 2003 though, the game was still alive, even if it was on life support. But really, how could I possibly know that if there is so much I don't know? Well, at least one employee was looking to jump off the sinking ship, applying to other companies. While showing their work experience, they may have attached a little something that would make things much more clear, perhaps something playable. Liam described that 5,000 Feet originally wanted to use Criterion's renderware engine, popular at the time, but were unwilling to pay, settling on some sort of modified renderware engine. I can't really confirm how much was used from renderware, other than the fact that it certainly was used, apparent in the file formats themselves. We can even load levels using the renderware world viewer, which is quite convenient. And to be clear, this is very much level-based at this point. There is no open world to be seen. Viewing levels is one thing, but playing is something else entirely, so let's do it. One of the things that strikes me as I watch Liam's video is how little 5,000 Feet actually showed. Almost everything in those trailers and gameplay clips comes from one or two levels, whether it's the shots of Daredevil himself, the bad guys, or the traversal. One thing missing in this PC version is any sort of health bar, but it may be possible to enable it somehow. There are PS2 ELF files, which is the executable format for PS2, but they freeze on load, even on a PS2 development tool, so I'll get back to that eventually, but that's not today's project. So let's take a look at this level, marked as level 4 in the debug menu that is the main way of loading anything in this build. You get a nice cutscene giving you a great view of Daredevil, the level itself, and some of the enemies, showing a city in disarray. It also gives us the first peek at Daredevil's Shadow World vision, though as Liam notes, it really doesn't serve a huge purpose at this point. One of the biggest issues that I have with the game from the get-go is that you die if you fall from too high. It's tough to actually judge what is too high or what is just right, leading to this happening all too often. One of Sony's big requests for the game was grinding, drawing from the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series. One of the strangest choices was to make the wires electrified, meaning you could actually die quickly even from grinding, so to say it doesn't work well is an understatement. Other levels don't use electrified wires, instead using complex pipes which show up in static form in Liam's video, but in practice it doesn't quite come together. In an ideal world with budget and time, getting to even a fraction of what Sunset Overdrive would do a decade later would have been amazing, but here we are. After the success of the Spider-Man 2 movie game, the developers were forced to find some way of working swinging into the game. Web swinging was out, so instead they chose to use the billy club to swing from surfaces. That last part being key, as unlike Spider-Man, you had to attach to something to swing. But again, the implementation comes up short here as it just doesn't work that well. One of the other areas Liam showed off was a boxing arena, which is certainly one of the more polished looking levels of this build. This has the player as Bullseye fighting Elektra. The state of the fight itself is quite early, but at least it's there. It again though shows how early things were, even in July 2003. Let's take a look. One of the things that doesn't seem to show up in this build is the Punisher and Black Widow, at least not as a visible character. Looking into some of the text files that remain, it seems that Black Widow would act as someone who would leave Daredevil notes, including some that would act as the tutorial to get the player up to speed, but that's all that's left over right now. The truth is that most of the game isn't here. Not because there aren't maps, there are a ton of maps, but most end up looking like this, full of untextured geometry and static models. This doesn't mean that there wasn't a more developed build out there, I only have a single snapshot in time, but I want to take a second to talk about the build itself one more time. When the build was initially sent to the prospective developer, it only had one level enabled. All of the other levels had to be enabled by modifying a level text file, so most of this wasn't intended to be seen, but they are stored in the same folder with similar dates even. So it seems like this was the current state of the game. Now there are some other folders with some older versions of maps, but they are more or less the same sort of thing. That isn't to say that there aren't hints of what could have been. Level 1 looks quite nice too, again starting with a cutscene, this time featuring Elektra. Diving into some of the unused sound files, we do get a few hints of the story, despite some very placeholder audio. This first clip would have likely played following the first mission. We also learn a little bit about Hammerhead and the plot involving a bridge and capturing a certain lawyer.
I'm looking for a lawyer named Nelson. Tell me what you know.
Hammerhead kidnapped some schmuck lawyer. We figured we'd blow up the train and take out Hammerhead to get our hands on him and find out what he knows. It's all strictly business.
Innocent people on that train aren't part of your business.
Listen, Daredevil, it's not our fault. Silvermane's lieutenant's trying to blow up the bridge. We were just trying to stop him. Hammerhead's daughter's on one of those trains.
And I'm sure taking a bigger piece of the Kingpin's pie has nothing to do with it.
There is also a full version of the voiceover seen in the trailer for the game, indicating that it would have been used during the introduction FMV.
Close your eyes and let the night touch you. Feel the terror in the city below. Hear the muffled cry of the innocent. Breathe in the pollution of crime that chokes the streets. Let the night touch you, and you will know only a fraction of its texture. A texture fully experienced by only one man. A blind man. A man without fear.
Like I mentioned before, there are older versions of some of the levels in the files, including versions of Hell's Kitchen that look a little bit older than what is in the normal level folder. The oldest level is from August 2002 and named Linear, so that seems like a logical point to assume that they had moved away from the open world that was previously planned. So far, I haven't found the Fisk level that Liam dug up in his video. I can't say how many of the issues in this build are the result of the build itself and the platform that I'm playing on, but this is the only known surviving data at this point for the Daredevil game. It was reported that the game was largely finished, but we simply don't have enough data to confirm or deny that. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the cancelled Daredevil game. Do follow me on Twitter at Borman18 for the latest in game preservation news, and until next time, thanks for watching.